Click the links for Gab, Odysee, Chute, and Discord to support channel through Coffee, crypto, or any of the various other means. Thanks for the recent support on crypto. It's pretty sweet to get an anonymous donation, so I'll just send thanks out to the universe. This is a big deal, and it's a big deal because the left painted themselves into a corner where they covered this up, and now the mainstream media is, I don't know if they're exactly covering up so much as slow rolling it. People, we look at things and we go, hey, the left-wing liberal media covered up. And they go, what are you talking about? It was in CNN. The difference in between a slow roll or a slow cover-up, a shadow ban in CNN media, or I'm using that to cover all mainstream left-wing media, is a story about something that makes a right-wing viewpoint look bad. We'll get the equivalent of like 10 million impressions across all of media. Something that makes the left look bad like this, where this is a transgender, there's Muslims involved, there's Jews involved. This is a very tricky situation with a lot of hot words and very protected classes, trans, and then those two Abrahamic religions, not Christian, doing some very bad things. So when I say like something that makes the right look bad gets 10 million impressions, I don't know, one of those, like the Catholic priest type of things. Something that makes the left look bad, they cover once. It doesn't get any retweets. It gets the equivalent of like 10,000 impressions. So they go, yes, technically ABC covered the story. It got 17 retweets. Where if it was something about some church in the South that was doing something, I guess they're not churches because they don't like Catholics. Some one of those, like the Baptist church, which, keep in mind the Baptist church has got like 150 members in it, and it's like they don't like the gay people. It's like, well, neither do Muslims, but nobody has a problem with them. It's like, at least these Baptists aren't hurting anyone. Anyway, it's like that story will get orders of magnitude greater coverage. And it's like, this is a big deal. I mean, they painted themselves into a corner with this ideology of you got to let boys in the women's room, which is, again, like nobody who's not an SJW, even SJWs are looking at this and they're like, oh yeah, I don't want my daughter. I don't want this to happen to my daughter. This girl. She went in the ladies' room. Oh, because they paint themselves in the corner with like, okay, there's everything trans. In California, that's like a state law. You can use any bathroom you want. You're going to get more of these kind of things because why wouldn't you? It's like once you stop enforcing consequences for people start getting away with more and more. And eventually this is going to come to a head. And like nobody in Congress is going to step up and take charge. There's maybe a few governors who know what's up. Well, no, I take that back. Everyone knows what's up, but there are a few governors out there who seem to want to do something about this, but it doesn't seem like anyone at the federal level cares. Like they're just okay with just taking their salary and just letting civilization kind of slip away. So they painted themselves in a corner with this ideology of the thing with the left is it keeps moving left because once they stand up and say, hey, we're having problems with this, they go, oh, well, you're transphobic, you're anti-Semitic, you're Islamo, you're gay-phobic, you're all these phobes. It's like you just created those words like 100 years ago, 20 years ago to use as shields, and then you establish them using control of the media, and then from behind those shields, you slowly start committing these atrocities. So boys can use any bathroom they want. All they have to do is say they're whatever one of these words, non-binary or trans or something. It's like all you have to do is say you're that. And usually the presumption would be, if it wasn't in fact a state law that men couldn't use the women's room and vice versa, it would be a presumption of a malicious act. You were like, well, you got a man in the woman's room is like, okay, that in itself would be the misdemeanor, but it would also be like, oh, you were there to do something, commit a further crime, not merely trespass against the state law against the sexes. If I poorly explained that, but you know what I'm saying. But now that presumption in law is gone because any man can use any woman's room, and vice versa. So there's no initial. It's like the burden of proof has shifted a little bit to where eventually, like you got a lot of these cases are, well, it's just he said against she said, and you're gonna have to go to forensics for that. And it's like, it's really tough to prove those kind of cases. Anyway, so when I mean they painted themselves in the corner, the media itself is slow rolling on these kind of things. And the longer the media goes without really coming out and covering it, and this is on Breitbart and Gateway Pundit and Post Millennial and the UNZ and Daily Stormer and all these like right of center news sites, but like all these right of center news sites are probably less than 10% of the media. Well, maybe Breitbart's a little bit more, but you get what I'm saying. OANN and Newsmax. It's like it's not a huge percentage of the mainstream media. And the longer the mainstream media goes and doesn't cover this, the more it looks like they are what they are. Completely partisan, biased media that are pushing a narrative. I mean, if you saw the Joe Rogan and they had the doctor from CNN on there, it's like, all this stuff, I say that should give you the chills. That should make the hairs on the back of your neck go up to see all this stuff. This should enrage you. You probably saw this thing. The guy got dragged out of a meeting, the school board meeting, because he was trying to say that his daughter was a victim of I'll call it a battery for the algorithm, a harmful and offensive sexual touching. And because by a transgender kid who might have been one of those religions that must not be mentioned. So he got arrested and everyone made fun of him. Oh, look at the dumb fat guy. He hates CRT and he hates trans people. He was trying to say that his daughter was a victim of this kid who was wearing a dress and went in there and allegedly committed all these horrendous acts. And then not only that at the time of the school board meeting, the school had knowledge of at least the allegations of a sexual battery were committed. And so they took the kid out of school for a little while. The police arrested him and then released him pending the case. Because again, it's his word against hers. It's like maybe it was consensual. He can say whatever he wants. But this guy Ziegler let the guy, he lied to the school board and said, no, we didn't have any knowledge of an incident going on. It's like, well, you had the police arrest the kid, and not only that, they kicked him out of school for a couple of days, and then they transferred him to a different school. So all while this is going on, this guy has knowledge of that. So it looks like, did you just, as the headline says, conceal a rape at a high school? And it looks more and more like, I mean, everyone deserves due process, even our enemies. This Ziegler guy did conceal this Malaman say act. So this kid gets kicked out. He gets arrested and released, gets kicked out, kicked to a different school, where allegedly he commits the same forced sodomy again. So this kid has got a screw loose. If these things happen, he did it twice in like a month. He's way off the deep end, but it's because he's of a protected religion class and protected, I don't know what you call it, sexual preference class, sexual identity class. They have to be treat him with kid gloves. And the idea that you have men in the women's room is insane, because most men are going to be able to easily overpower a woman. That's like, you wouldn't want somebody in this, in a small area, a private area. It's like where they can do anything they want, and if there's like no one else there to help them, it's like, it's such an insane, it's just the decline of civilization. And peak Weimar in Germany in the 30s, or like Sodom and Gomorrah. It's like, how do you know a civilization is dying? Well, when the media out and out lies to you, when the school boards, Garland, Eric Garland, I forget his first name, he the district attorney, original name Garfinkel, which seems to fit him more. His daughter is selling the CRT stuff, and he says he's going to go after the students at school board meetings. And in fact, now that I remember, Garfinkel's report on talking to the Department of Justice and the FBI to get them to go after parents at school board meetings relied on this incident of the guy getting arrested. They don't show that picture of the guy getting arrested. They relied on this incident for that report to the Department of Justice. So as their cause of war, that incident was, he was trying to tell the school board that this guy was lying about this kid allegedly snuggling his daughter, and then get kicked off, and allegedly he did it again. we're headed for very, very dark days. So according to ABC 7 News, again, like, yeah, they're covering it, but they're lightly covering it. The same juvenile suspect was charged with a second assault at another school after that initial one. School board meeting members were questioned heavily on how this could happen in their county, with Speaker saying, how do you expect parents across the country to drop their kids off and entrust you all to keep them safe when you've shown on more than one occasion you're not up for the job? Bruh, you cannot be this nice. There's negligence, there's recklessness, and there's acting with intent. If you intentionally concealed allegations of the most heinous act of moral turpitude, this Malaman Say act of a sexual battery, it's one of the most horrible things you can do to somebody, the most degrading thing to do to a high school girl, and you covered it up. Don't be so nice to this person. Be honest with them. And there's another woman on the school board, Schwarm Ziegler, who acted like it appears that they were trying to conceal this because it's like it's all kind of ties in with the trans and the CRT. So you've got these two bad actors, Ziegler and Schwarm, who are willing to sacrifice two girls to be the victims of this kid. And there's some other talk about, I think it's like National Vanguard or one of these other like further right sources who are talking about the kid's origin himself. He might be a newcomer to the country, a recent arrival to the country who is using this trans thing as a wolf in sheep's clothing. And like, it's just 2021, and just say it to yourself out loud. You've got men who are allowed to use the women's restroom. How insane is that? What can I say? I mean, get your Liberty devices, polish them up. It's like, this can't go on. And I don't know, I'm not, trying not to Fed post here, but like, I don't know if you can vote your way out of something that you didn't vote your way into. Because you didn't vote your way into boys in the girls' room. And you didn't vote your way into people like Ziegler's and Schwarmers, who are willing to sacrifice, or Garfinkel's, who are willing to sacrifice people. Like, you didn't. Did we vote for this? I'm saying you can't vote your way out of something like this. So I don't know. There's a fine line between advocating a change in the Constitution, which may or may not be constitutionally protected speech, because the Founding Fathers themselves put it into the Constitution, and the writings of the Founding Fathers that led to the Constitution is they were coming out and saying that when tyranny needs to be overthrown, these are the tools to overthrow a tyrannical regime. It's like, oh, talking about the Founding Fathers, we'll get the FBI to kick down your door and burn your family to death. I only say that because they've done it before, and they'll definitely do it again. The police, the FBI SWAT teams, they're just mindless agents of the state. They're not all on the level of thinking of Garfinkel, but they're just doing what they were told, which, has had such great results throughout history. Anyway, I hope this gets around the algorithm. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for the donations. It helps me do what I do so I could do more of this. And I will see you guys next episode.